Welcome to Studying Law Around the World. I'm Claudio Klaus. In each episode, I talk with lawyers, law students, and professors from different parts of the world to talk about legal education, careers, and what the profession looks like in real life. We talk about the hard parts, the surprises, and the decisions that shaped their paths. Whether you're planning to study abroad, thinking about working in another legal system, or just curious about how law works around the world, this podcast is for you. Today, I have the opportunity to interview Gary Mitchell, who is the founder of OnTrac Coach. He has an impressive career spanning 30 years in the business world. He has become a beacon for lawyers and law firms seeking the rapid achievement of their goals. Thank you so much for making the time to be here today, Gary.
My pleasure, Claudio. It's great to be with you today.
I appreciate it. And to start us off, I'd love to ask you to introduce yourself and share a little bit about, your career and how you first found your way into coaching lawyers.
Okay, I'm gonna try and make this brief uncharacteristically because it's a very unique story. So looking back, even as back as far as high school, I was always fascinated with history, sociology, politics, basically everything around people, right? And theater and music were my first passion. I started my first business in Toronto and built a national event. I started the business at 25, no experience, got my hands dirty, made a lot of mistakes. That's how most entrepreneurs learn, right? And found myself out in Vancouver as a result. And then I got involved in politics. Fast forward, I ran for parliament in 2004. And I always say, thankfully, I lost. Um, I can't imagine. Anyway, so the following election, I was approached by a lawyer to run his nomination campaign in the same riding that I'd just done a candidate. So I dropped everything, 10 days, sprint to the nomination, oversaw the building of a website, hosted an event, sent out a mailer, wrote his speech, coached him on that, and he won the nomination. And he was determined to have me as his campaign manager. And I was like, no way. I didn't want to go anywhere near that. Anyway, I ended up being his campaign manager. So coached him, and it was an extended campaign that went over 25, 26. Paul Martin was the prime minister. It was a minority, so we weren't sure, when things were going to go. So it was a very challenging experience, but it was also the most fulfilling experience I'd had up to that time in my career. I had always been the guy. Okay. So now I had the opportunity to be the guy or the person behind the person. And it was phenomenal, Claudio, to see the transformation of another person as a result of some of the advice and guidance I was giving him. And it was like he was like a sponge. He went from zero, and I mean zero, and he'd be first to admit it, blank slate, no experience whatsoever, to beating two veteran politicians on a live television debate just days before the election. Like, it was amazing. Now, during this process, his best friend, a former lawyer, said, Gary, I've seen what you've been doing with the candidate. I won't mention his name. And it's remarkable. Like, you've got a knack to work with highly intellectual people and help them understand and break down the simple, practical steps of business and marketing, people skills. And he said the legal industry needs this. They need marketing support, business development support, all the same skills, soft skills that a politician may use, right? Speaking, networking, building relationships. So after I picked my job off the floor, I'm thinking, what? Like, the legal industry has been around forever. They don't know they haven't figured this out yet. So I've been involved in politics, as I said, for many years. So I knew a lot of lawyers. So that was my first step, as I reached out to them and I asked them for their feedback. And some of them gave me honest feedback and some of them didn't, holding their cards close to the chest. But they made many introductions to legal marketers in Vancouver. I went out and I did research in person. I also went online. And at that point, back in 2006, I literally was one of the first business coaches in the legal industry. Definitely the first in Canada and one of the early ones, early pioneers in North America. It was really brand spanking new. Even today, some people don't even know it exists, right? And there's tons of competitors, which I find is a great thing, because back then I was the only person shouting from the mountaintop. And now there's like, a whole stream of it. It's an industry, business coaching in the legal industry. Firms have a roster of coaches. I mean, it's come a long way in 20 years. So that's how I fell into this. I really fell into it. And it was very serendipitous. I just have to say one thing. My fourth book is coming out. and it's a publisher in Toronto, and the co-publisher literally is the brother, also a lawyer, of the lawyer, the best friend of the candidate that gave me the idea to coach lawyers in the first. Like, talk about the serendipity, right? Full circle. I can hardly wait. The book's coming out in June, and when I found that out, I just was like, "Whoa, that is like you can't write that," you know?
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Definitely can't plan for something like that to happen, and especially with the 20 years of a history on that. But that's such an incredible story. I'm curious here. You just mentioned, that you got this suggestion, you noticed that the Lego industry had all those gaps, those needs. So I'm curious to say, to hear what you say. Actually, I read on your website that you say that lawyers are great thinkers, but those same traits can also hold them back.
I devote a whole chapter to this because it's really the lawyer mind is one of analytical, critical, risk averse. I mean, this is why we hire lawyers, right? They're going to find the problem or prevent the problem or do what they can to alleviate the problem or make it go away. They're problem solvers. But in that, they're always looking on the negative side of things. They're looking for what's wrong with things, right? The business mind, an entrepreneurial mind is always looking for opportunities, always looking for where can this go? It's completely competing. What makes a great lawyer holds them back as a business person and vice versa. And I've heard this from them as well. Like, I'm not the only one to say this. So basically, and it's basically left brain functions, right? Analytical, critical, all of that. And what I teach them is I teach them how to exercise more of the right brain functions, like the creative, the innovative. Now, with that comes a lot of challenges. In their world, lawyers like to have control. They don't like surprises. They're perfectionists. I mean, there's a whole string of personality traits. I always say, like, all humans have these personality traits, but a lawyer is like a regular human times 100 when it comes to some of these. And again, it's not a criticism. It's an observation of working with them for 20 years. And it's purely what we want when we hire them, right? We hire them for that kind of critical, analytical thinking. So that's the challenge, is helping them understand that it's a different way of thinking, right? It's a different way of thinking in business. And there's no one in business that can honestly say they haven't made a ton of mistakes. Whereas you won't find many lawyers that will admit they made a ton of mistakes, right? Usually they don't make many because they can't. But in business, you can't move forward unless you make mistakes. This is I mean, I know I've made a ton of them, and that's how I've learned, right? That's how entrepreneurs, I'm not afraid of making a mistake. There's another a challenge. Lawyers are like scared beyond belief of making a mistake. And so this holds them back again in the business side because they're going to make mistakes, right? People make mistakes. And so it's an interesting challenge. I enjoy it because usually by the time a client comes to me, they know they need help. They've passed that Rubicon, so to speak, right? They know they need help. Now they're trying to figure out where or who, how. How are they going to get the help? But they have to actually pass over that bridge of they need help to get to the next level, whatever that is in their career, right? Like recently, last year, I made the decision early in the year after 19 and a half years. I'm strictly working with law firm owners now. Like, I may work with some of their staff, but my lead client is the law firm owner looking to grow their small law firm. So it's the entrepreneur, and I truly love it.
I saw something along the lines of part of your work is helping lawyers to build a firm around their life and the other way around. I'd love to hear a little more about what does that look like in practice, for a busy firm owner.
Okay. Well, first of all, the title of the book, it's called The And Approach: Growing a Successful Law Firm and Gaining More Freedom, because that's where it all starts, with the and mindset. So instead of I'm going to do this or that, I'll show them, you know what's possible? You can have a successful business and a life. You don't have to be chained to the desk or chained to the office, working 8 hours a week. I've had a few clients actually out of Toronto. You're in Toronto right now as we record this, who spend the winters in Costa Rica. They figured a way out how to do it. We're recording this. I'm in Mexico. I spend my winters in Mexico working from here. Now, litigators obviously have a little bit more of a challenge with the freedom side because they have to be physically in court, but they're not in court every week. They're not in court every month, right? So they can move around. They can flexible. The challenge though is, here's the challenge. In order to gain the freedom, they have to let go of some of the control. And that's where they need the help. Lawyers love to have control because they're perfectionists, right? And so I move them a little bit along. I never push my clients out of their comfort zone. I kind of move the goalposts a little bit at a time, gently easing them, expanding the comfort zone until they understand that to grow and create the life that they want, it has to go beyond themselves. They need to build a team. So that's basically that in a nutshell. If I were to say one way how to get the freedom, it's you need a team around you. None of us can do all this on our own.
Very, very interesting. And something else that I saw is that you talk a lot about the mindset shifts. So I wanted to hear a little more about your experience. What are some of the hardest changes that lawyers need to make when they start thinking like a business owner? You just talked about the control. And
Yeah, well, it's like I'll repeat myself because it really is about control and perfectionism. They have to drop those. They have to let them go. And to build a team, obviously, I show them how to build the best possible team so that it's easier to let go of control because there's trust, right? We're gonna hire smart. We're gonna hire the right people. We're gonna get them in the right roles, and we're gonna give them the right support to grow and learn. So it's not just, and oh yeah, we're gonna have a team and it's all gonna be, hunky dory. No, there's a lot of work behind this. But when it's done right, that's when the freedom occurs. But they have to, like, it's again, it's that it's a high wire act, Claudio. It's not. I don't move them from lawyer mind to entrepreneur mind overnight. It takes time, and depending on where they are in their journey, right, how many years they've been in. I mean, I love to have somebody who's been in at least 5 years and gotten to some level of success already, because then they've had some failures as well. They've had some stumbling blocks, so they know what they know, and they know what they don't know. Well, they actually don't know what they don't know, but they don't know everything. So that's when they look for help. But you know what I've always maintained, and it's proven every single day, attitude is everything. Attitude is everything, and that's one of my strategies when I'm helping them hire is before the CV, before the law school mark, before the firms they worked at, if they're experienced, how do we measure their attitude? Are they a go-getter? Are they going to figure it out? Or are they going to be like stuck in the solution or sorry, stuck in the problem, being part of the problem rather than the solution? Right. And so there's a lot of, I mean, to me, this stuff just comes naturally. I don't know why. I can't say how, but I guess when I look back at my life, like I said, everything I was interested in has always been around people, the study of people. And so I guess I'm a pretty good judge of people in the professional realm. Again, I'm not perfect, no, and my systems are not, perfect, but they're pretty darn good. And I've helped people build some amazing teams. And I look back at some of my clients now that I worked with like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, even one in Toronto, started with him 2018, worked through 2020. And he's already won the fastest growing law firm in Toronto twice from the Globe and Mail. And he's grown beyond that. He wrote the foreword for the book, and he will be hosting the launch of the book in his Bay Street office in June. I can't wait. But he's one of many stories that, I had the opportunity of working with him. There's a great example. Now this is a great for some of your listeners too, for junior lawyers. So the story is he articled, right? He graduated in article, and he wasn't hired back from the firm. He couldn't get a job. So he went out and he started his own law firm. Fast forward 5 years later, he's got 5 lawyers working under him. This is when he reached out to me because he wanted to help create a plan, a path to partnership for them. Well, that was 2018 when he reached out. Last year, I saw the announcements on LinkedIn. They've all made partner. They've all stuck with him. They made partner. I worked with a number of them, coached them. It's amazing to see that. Like, there's an example. He had already achieved quite a level of success, right? Like young, I think he was like 31 or 32 or something, has a 5 lawyer firm. 5 lawyers under him plus him. And I mean, I'd say that's success, right? But he knew he couldn't get to the next level without help. So we worked together for a couple of years, and I mean, it's just amazing to see the client grow. Another one in Vancouver, she had left a firm. I think she was about 4 years in, 4 year call. She left a firm to start her own firm. That was, I'm going to say 20, it was either 2012 or 2013, because I was actually in Toronto for the summer when she reached out to me. Um, so back then, 2012, let's say it's 2012, she it was her and her legal assistant. Now she has a team of 25 lawyers. She branched out to a second practice area and she's created a 4-day work week for all her staff. Like, she is bleeding edge. Like, just took off. One of the most brilliant entrepreneurial lawyers I know in Canada. There's another one in Calgary. She's a immigration lawyer, and she just keeps winning accolades and accolades and accolades over and over and over again. It's amazing to see when you look back, and I had a small part in it. I'm not going to take credit for all of that, right? But I had some part in it, and that is awesome. That just makes me to see them grow and then move and go to a whole new level. It's almost like I'm a proud parent, right?
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing those really tangible examples as well of those experiences, Gary. And I saw here you've worked with everyone from solo practitioners to partners at large firms. You did mention you have a little bit more of a focus now on people who own their own firm. But I wanted to ask you if throughout these years, if there were a few mistakes that you saw being repeated across firm sizes when it comes to growth or leadership, regardless of it being, a smaller firm or a big firm.
Yep. Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because I always tell when like, say I was working with a partner at a large firm, I always told them, I said, think of your practice as a franchise. This is your business. And if you treat it like that, then you might as well be running your own firm. So the challenges are the same: the building a team, letting go. I'll give you an example. I worked with this fairly senior partner out in Halifax, and he came back from a medical leave, and the firm hired me directly to help him get back on track, right? We worked together for well over a year. And I remember near the end, we were on a call, and he said, Gary, I just can't believe it. I'm only doing the work I love. And I laughed and I said, because you've built a team and you're delegating. And he did. He got a reputation in the firm where, all the associates would be talking and they'd be like, I want to go work with that partner, because he takes his associates to the client events. They're involved with the client relationship. He mentors them. He builds them up. It's the same. The mistakes made are the same, no matter if it's solo practice or senior partner at an international law firm. It's being rigid, not letting go of control, not building a team around you. Like, senior partners at the big firms, they need to build a team. They can't do it all on their own. They can't bill $1 million on their own. They can say their book is 1 million, but they've got a roster of lawyers and paralegals and legal assistants helping them. So it really, no matter what side, if you're solo, you still need a team. Whether on contract or they're virtual or part-time or whatever, you need to build a team. You can't do this on your own. No one can. But lawyers really, it goes back to the inherent traits, the perfectionism, and the very difficult challenge of letting go of control. And I understand it. Again, I'm not criticizing them. I'm understanding them, right? And I get it. But there are some good people out there. I know I've been in this 20 years. There are some good juniors. There are some good paralegals. There are some serious people that you can build an amazing team with. And here's the other thing, Claudio. I always say this, especially the small law firm owners. There's a lot of unhappy lawyers out there working at the bigger firms. If you can create a culture that inspires innovation, inspires creativity, inspires teamwork, where people are fulfilled, you're going to be able to attract the best of the best of the talent.
Very, very interesting. Something that I also wanted to ask you, I believe that working in this business, in this area for over 20 years, you've surely seen many, many changes in how firms are run and how processes change over time with more technology and as that's implemented. And I'm curious if there is anything, regarding the business model of law firms, as time passed and as you look ahead to the future, are there ways where, this business model needs to change to stay, healthy, profitable, and human for this next decade?
It's interesting. I was on a webinar this morning, and it was a coach from the UK, and it was for coaches, and he was talking about how having AI help us be more human, right? Not get away from human, but embrace more human. So law firm model, yes. Well, it's already in Australia and the UK, and it's where non-lawyers have ownership in the law firm. So you have people buy into the law firm, professional management, right? Like a CMO or CEO. And now they've got a stake in the ownership of the firm, and they're part of the professional management. So I see that's been happening for, I guess, well over 10 years, maybe 15. You know how time flies. I'm always like pre-COVID, post-COVID. Like COVID was like, but it's been going on in the UK and Australia for at least well over 10, probably well over 15 years, where the law societies or whatever their governing bodies are over there have allowed. And I believe there's some talk of it actually happening in the United States. We're a little bit behind in Canada, but I think that's, you know, to be a great lawyer is a really difficult, challenging profession. It's an art. And to be both a great lawyer and a great business person, it's very, very rare. It's very rare. I've seen it, but it's very rare. And I'll give you two diametrically opposed examples of recent owners that I've worked with. So one guy in Toronto, very entrepreneurial. Okay. He could leave the lawyering to everyone else, and he could be very, very happy doing the business side and growing the firm for the rest of his career. The opposite of that is the client in Vancouver who loves to play lawyer, loves to be the advocate in the courtroom for his clients. He has no interest in marketing, absolutely zero interest in HR. I know because I took that over for him. And so you got two different models. What's the approach? We still need to build a team around them, but the team will be different based on their strengths. So I always say and this can be for, even though I'm focused on law firm owners, this advice goes for any lawyer, solo practice, partner, or working towards partnership with a big firm, is you start with your strengths and then you build around that with complementary services. So instead of trying to pick up your socks, and if you're terrible at marketing and you hate marketing, get some help. Don't try and figure it out. You can't do it all on your own. Or if there's a certain part of marketing that you're good at, focus on that. Get help with the other stuff, right? Don't be pushing the boulder up the hill. Build a team. Build a team around your strength and what you want. And that's how you're going to get freedom, right? I can't use the same model for those approaches for those two very, very different lawyers with very different goals. They're completely opposite. One is truly entrepreneurial. The other one, yeah, sure, he wants to build a law firm because he can see the opportunities, but he doesn't want to build it himself. That's fine. I'm not there to judge. I'm like, okay, this is unique. This will be fun. So in his case, we build partnership or professional management or a combination of both to run the law firm. He still signs the check. He's still the authority, right? But he's not running the day-to-day. With the other guy in Toronto, he's running it. He's building the team around him. And he's hiring lawyers and delegating and doing very little legal. He'll always have his hand in the legal work a little bit, obviously, right? But he's not doing the brunt of it day to day. So there's two examples of where it's completely opposite. The approach is the same. That's building a team. How we do it and how we build the team is different based on the individual lawyer. And again, that formula, Claudio, for any lawyer, whether you're solo practice or you're building your little team at a firm, the same model, it's basically for all of them.
I'm curious now, as kind of to wrap up today's episode. A lot of my audience right now is early career professionals starting up their careers as lawyers in Canada. And I'm curious to know, for those who are just starting out, is there some kind of piece of advice that you wish you would tell people earlier on in their careers, or maybe that they've heard early on and would help in the longer game?
I probably have about a million things. But if I were to sum it up to one thing, I would, well, it's a two part piece of advice. First of all, be true to yourself. Okay. So if you, if you're a brainiac who like really loves to get into the nitty gritty of the law and, you just like that's, go for it. Go for it. If you have no desire on the business side of it, be the best you can be at whatever you enjoy the most. So be true to yourself first, That's my first bit of advice. Otherwise, you're going to have a miserable career. I can guarantee it. I've seen it. The carnage is unbelievable. But that's only if you don't stay true to yourself. The second is never settle for less than what you want. Okay. There's a lot of firms out there. There's a lot of different cultures, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't have a fulfilling and enjoyable career in law. But you have to take the lead. Okay. You cannot, what I see all the time, and you can see, you can look up the statistics, Claudio, in the industry where around the 4 or 5 to 7 year mark, that's where the lawyers leave the profession altogether. It's their head's been down. They haven't had a time to breathe. And all of a sudden they're looking up from their desk one day, WTF, what am I doing here? Right. And they're burnt out. They're unhappy. I could go on and on. I won't. You can imagine what comes after burnt out and unhappy, not good stuff. And many of them leave the profession altogether. And so I've examined why, right? It's not just the firm they're at. You can't blame it on all on the firm. So really be true to yourself, whatever that is. It's like I'm a coach. I'm not here to tell you what you should do in your career. I'm here to help you get to wherever you want to once you decide. But if you want to be a rock star lawyer and grow your own firm, go for it, man. There's so much opportunity to do things differently. You know, this younger generation already, the next couple of generations already, millennials and Gen Z, they're doing things differently. You know, that example that I used of the young lawyer who wasn't hired back after articling, he's a millennial. And then he was hiring millennials. So, like, don't, just because it's been done a certain way for all these years does not mean it's the best way to do it. And it's the way you should do it. Find your own path, right? You put the time in, you put your blood, sweat, and tears on a lot of money to get to this point in your career. You deserve to go that extra mile. And that extra mile is being true to yourself and not settling for less.
Really appreciate those thoughts. Really appreciate you all for taking the time to tuning into today's episode. Thanks again, Gary.
Thank you, Claudio.